Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Welcome back. Some of you were just here with us for about 45 minutes ago for Welcome to Derry, episode 7. One more episode left of that. I thought it was a great episode. I think this has been a great series. This has been one of the better streaming series that I've watched since we've been doing this whole streaming television thing. So you can catch our full review in the previous broadcast, but we'll talk about a little bit more. Really streamlined show tonight because usually I do this show later on in the evening because of availability. But every now and then I get a Sunday where I can sit down and do whatever streaming show we're doing, and then the Sunday weekend wrap up show. My wacky retail schedule didn't allow for me to do a traditional Saturday overnight live show tonight. So you're getting a lot of it in this show today. So for about the next 90 minutes, I am your geek. And I should have a co-host coming through here in a couple minutes. Let's see. I'm behind. No spoilers. Okay, we're not going to talk too much about it. That's why we do the live watch. Most of the spoiler talk is in there. All the spoiler talk is in there. Thank you, Larry, for being a member for 17 months. That's helped support the cause here. Co-individuals are excited for Supergirl. Not a Tom King fan at all, but I do actually like the Woman of Tomorrow comic. I know a lot of people who are not big Tom King fans, even though he's done a lot of good work. Obviously, Jared from Comic Book League does not like him or what he's done with Wonder Woman. But what he's done with Wonder Woman in comparison to what he's done with Supergirl, it's a big difference. I do recommend that if you have not got your hands on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, then you should, not just because of the movie's coming out, because it's one of the better stories written. I think it's the best Supergirl story out there right now. This movie is going to be basically using that as a framework. I don't know if it'll be a direct one-for-one adaptation, but it, close enough for me. There's the Duckman who is here with us on the things. Yes, it is me. How are you doing, Steven Ortega? Why does now everybody has a number behind their name now? I noticed mine, and I had to change mine as well. Yes, I am restored. Hello, Aaron. Another Welcome to Derry co-pilot with me. That was with me a couple minutes ago. Oof. Larry, thank you for the $5 super chat. William, it's great to see you. Let's do a lucha stream together. Why can't I see this? Here we go. Let's do a lucha stream together when I have some time to research the guys I saw live in Mexico. Okay, you don't have to twist my hand to watch wrestling. You know what? We're gonna have to pause the show for a second because if you notice, I sold some comics while I was on the air, and that spot right here is going to drive me crazy. I will be right back. There you go. That was going to annoy the hell out of me because I can see it and it just bothers me. Yeah, you don't have to twist my arm to watch to do wrestling. Trust me, you know I love wrestling. Okay, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. Never. Show the mask. All right, wow. Somewhat relatively on time is Brad, but I didn't know he'd be too late. He couldn't have wandered off too far. You were just here 45
I
minutes
just
ago.
went and took a shower real quick.
All right, so it's been a wild week. Just a lot of stuff's happened. I don't know to what extent we need to discuss the merger anymore. We pretty much I'm committed to answering questions, but I at the same time nothing's changed in the last 24 hours, other than apparently David, which is, by the way, did anybody actually think that Warner Brothers and or Netflix didn't sit down with any of these politicians before David Ellerson lawyer wrote that letter in Crayola and sent it out? But, do you think that these guys are all on the same level? I mean, at least I thought there's no fucking way that they were going to push this merger forward without having made some phone calls, emails, contributions, whatever they needed to do before we knew about it.
Yeah, well, but apparently, like Paramount just got a little overconfident with their they had this in the bag already.
Well, here's the thing: you're in bed with a guy who can be influenced very easily, very easily. So if you can influence, if David Ellerson can influence Donald Trump, then David Zaslav can influence Donald Trump, and that's going to be the same with a lot of these politicians.
Yeah, but the big tragedy is we're not getting Rush Hour 4 now.
I didn't give a fuck about Rush Hour 3 or 2. The only good Rush Hour, in my opinion, was 1. But hey, listen, if that's another thing that's part of that pattern of quid pro quo. You just
that was pretty transparent too.
Yeah, too many things about the Paramount deal hinged on the type of influence that I really don't think is good for any of the industry, because administrations change. Politicians die, get voted out, do all kinds of things. So all you're really doing is setting up something that was good for that time, but that's not always good for the consumer. And I know Zaslav and Sarandos are in bed with the same politicians, but at the same time, it's on a defensive level and not what Paramount was doing. Paramount thought they had all the confidence in the world in the backing, and you got to realize you're dealing with other billionaires. You're dealing with other billionaires, and it's going to go to the highest bidder. So yeah, that's a development I thought was hilarious. But I've been listening to a lot of people. Who the prevailing assessment is that this is the worst thing for theaters and theatrical. And I've been hearing people who I respect the hell out of, though, and whose fears are not invalid. But I don't think we're doing this in the proper context.
Maybe not unfounded is the best way.
What's up? Not unfounded. That's probably the better term.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way to put it, yeah.
And that, well, they're taking quotes, and these are to Taranto's words, and they're saying, oh, see, hear what he said? one thing that people got to realize before we go into this, no matter what Ted Sarandos or anybody running Netflix says, they're speaking from an organization that they're currently running, not the behemoth that it will become. When Ted Sarandos says, ultimately, we are a streaming service that is here to provide streaming content to our customers. Yeah, that's Netflix. That's not post-merger Netflix, though. I don't believe you can read that way, of course, but I think that you could also read it in the fact that the only thing that this guy has ever ran right now or at this level is Netflix. The only thing he can speak on is Netflix. Nobody can speak on the post-merger situation. So, like I said last night, could he do all this? Yeah. Here's why I don't think that's going to happen, and not because I believe or I'm going by the word of Ted Sarandos or anybody from Netflix or anybody else. To me, it's just what I like to consider the chain of prestige. When he says that, this merger is to provide value to our viewers and stockholders, that's a part you don't really need to lie about. You can do the math there. The infrastructure that is embedded in Warner Brothers as a distributor, that's infrastructure that's already there. You're literally adding value to your franchises by that. And here's why. Not everybody that has HBO Max has Netflix, vice versa. Some of us have them all, but a lot of people don't. When you are taking what Warner Brothers does as is right now, and you cycle it through the theaters, you cycle it through HBO Max, you cycle it through the VODs, and then you rotate that same content into Netflix, that raises the value of all involved. That raises the value. That gives you top of the line content, because there's a difference between what Warner Brothers produces for HBO Max and their theaters, and then what Netflix produces. Netflix produces for volume. Warner Brothers produces for quality. Yes, you have some things like Squid Game. You have some things like Stranger Things, obviously. But the vast majority of the stuff that they do, especially the stuff they curate, is just kind of like it's fodder, but people go for it. There's a reason why they put they have $4 billion a year, or $4 billion a month, coming in. So they have an audience, but there's a different, distinct type of market for where they're at. Being a distributor and owning the distribution rights to all of your IPs and properties, that's a big ace to have. That insulates you from a lot of the consequences. That means you can have somebody coming in, producing the film, putting the money down from the film, and you are just a distributor. Too many B's. Distributor. That means you're going to make your money, because you're going to have all the control of the physical media. You're going to have all the control of all the other ancillary things that come along with that. That's a big thing. I don't see them stripping that down. And in order to keep that cycle of prestige, you have to continue to put out prestigious things out there. I don't think it does them any good to cannibalize Warner Brothers Pictures into something a lot of people are fearing. If you're doing this to bring value and create revenue streams, you already have pre-existing revenue streams that exist within Warner Brothers. You're here to create more. You're doing this to create more revenue streams, not get rid of them. Even if you're taking it from the greed perspective. Now, and I think everything I've heard from a lot of people is that when they're talking about this, they're talking about it from the point of view of where we've always been and where we're at the present, which is what Netflix is. But like I said before, this allows Netflix to stay Netflix. I don't see Netflix changing their game plan. They don't need to now.
Now, the only thing, I don't know if I'd say pushback on that, but like question I would have, like everything you're saying there, is like what role, like if that all kind of unfolds as you're saying, like what role, if any, would Netflix have in terms of like greenlighting decisions, within Warner Brothers?
I think what's going to end up happening is they're going to leave in place the infrastructure in regards to when it comes to Warner Brothers. Like I heard the Dan Lin thing, and I think I don't believe that it's going to be him being put into the chain of command over James Gunn. I think that and this is why the reason why Abdi and Luca are signed there long term. I think this was going to be the same, for most of the people who bought it. Maybe not Ellison, but I've been saying, Netflix knows what they know, and they know what they don't know. They have people in there right now, especially this year, that are generating revenue for a company that had a hard time doing so. They're in a good spot, and basically what they need to do is feed off of that. Now, the greenlighting decisions, it depends on who stays in place. If part of this deal is that David Zaslav stays in place for a little bit, then he's going to be the one greenlighting things for Warner Brothers Pictures. But as far as like Ted Sarandos goes, I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's going to take a flamethrower, to Warner Brothers, simply because you have shareholders that are going to be like, you're about to burn my money.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of shareholders, I'm sure you saw the and probably laughed as hard as I did at the news or rumor that Paramount's going to try a hostile takeover by going
hostile takeover. Is that okay?
Well, especially after that letter. Come on.
Well, you're trying to get, unless you are going to offer more, then it's dead on arrival. And to be honest with you, you should have done that before you sent the letter. If you were going to do a hostile takeover, you were going to need to do it before that. Now you pissed everybody off, so that's not happening.
When they wrote that letter, that's the point they fundamentally were getting. Here's why Netflix won: is because Rich Asshole 2 offered more money than Rich Asshole 1 was offering.
And it allows them to make another transaction for the linear stuff. But right now, as it is, Warner Brothers is more of an asset to them as a whole. It does not affect Netflix individual as a business model. And in fact, the smart thing, and as they, whether you believe what he said or not, when they said these things are going to be run separately, financially and mathematically, that's the right way. You don't want to mess with Netflix business model. You want to add to the content. You want to be able to spread that content, because there are, like I said, there are some people, there are moviegoers who despise Netflix, even though they pull in a ton of money and they have 300 million subscribers. That's global. There are cinephiles that are like see Netflix as Satan and are never going to touch Netflix. But you keep Warner Brothers intact, you're going to have it. Now, when a lot of these things are like, well, he's already talking about the theatrical window going this way and going this way, but that was going to happen with or without this merger. And I said, and I'm going to be in the minority here, I don't feel the need personally to have movies in the theaters any longer than they need to be there, for several reasons. Some of them are a fact, like I was explaining last night. You go to these theaters, you go to these chains, AMC 18, Regal Red Rock 16. You only have so many screens to cycle these movies out between all these studios. Some of your movies have to replace these movies. After 2 weeks, if you look at the numbers, and that's why people are always talking about, the second week, this percentage drop, because most people know that the first 2 weeks is where most of your viewership comes from. Any movie I want to see, I'll be damned. If it's a movie I want to see, I am not waiting 3 weeks. If I'm waiting 3 weeks, I don't want to see that movie, and I can just go ahead and wait for it to end up on streaming, because I pretty much waited long enough. And why I don't understand how it's going to hurt the box offices if you've made the money that you're going to make percentage-wise, and then another movie comes in. You're not going to keep that screen blank. Those screens, go to the theater. Is there a theater right now that's not showing a movie in your theater? Anybody in America? No. Every theater that I walk into has a movie playing.
We got a couple of things. I mean, the ones, that I go to. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, it's partially, being time of year it is. I mean, they're rotating in like Christmas movies from 20 years ago. They got Elf. Yeah. They got Polar Express. They got a few others. The Grinch.
But if you go to a major Cineplex, like AMC Town Square here, 18, where we go to do our screenings, it's all new movies. Go look at their website. There are some places like Galaxy has Christmas movies. I would rather have my dick ripped off by a chainsaw than watch Elf ever again. But they're playing that. They're playing It's a Wonderful Life. They're playing Santa Claus. because of the seasonal. But 9 times out of 10, you go into a movie theater, there's brand new movies playing. So it's not like, your output, your theaters can only take so many movies anyway. And then you also have to play it by ear. Let greed be your guide if you're a corporation. If a movie has legs in week 3, then you make an adjustment for week 4, 5. But for the most part, there are outliers. Like Avatar doesn't make a lot of money at any given time, but it consistently makes enough money to do what it does, right? But there are other movies that the hype and the way the audience is built up, most of your comic book movies, man, those are front-loaded. All your multiple views that I know of are within the first couple of weeks. And then you start to see it tail down. So this whole theatrical window, and I know I'm in the minority. I know a lot of people just want to keep... Why don't we keep it in 90 days? I think 90-day windows are ridiculous. I don't think. My fat burger's here. Thank you.
Good.
All right, shut up.
Nah.
When a movie comes out, 5414. All right. When a movie I want to go see, I'm there, man. If I haven't got an advanced screening to it already, and I got to pay to see it, I'm there first day. I'm there Thursday night. At the very least, I'm there. I think Sunday. Sunday is going to be the minimum for me. I'm not waiting 2 or 3 weeks. Look at that. There we go. I can feel it. Perfect. So I think the panicking around the theatrical window, I think people are using that as a slippery slope to say, well, they're going to kill the theaters. I'm like, no. If they have accountants sitting around, they're not going to let that happen, because all those movies you cycle through the theaters that go to HBO Max, all that HBO Max content, and even HBO Max content that you can now fold over into Netflix. Why wouldn't you put Sopranos on Netflix? You got a lot of people who only have Netflix that know of the Sopranos, but they're not going to pay for another streaming service to see that show. Guess what? Put some Thrones on there. See, that cycle of prestige will keep that going, but financially, you would decrease that. Why would you take yourself out of the distribution game? You could have other production companies fitting the bill mostly for your movies, and you keep the distribution rights so that you're the one who gets to put out. You get your cut. You get your cut right off the top. So could it happen? I'm not gonna say that a lot of these fears are unfounded or that it couldn't happen, and I'm not calling these people stupid. And I'm not even saying that they're necessarily, why can't I talk today? Necessarily 100% wrong. I'm only posing the question of, forget about the words. Let's look at the money. Let's look at how movies that are in theaters do when they go to a streaming service versus the ones that are released direct to streaming. See, Netflix can actually upgrade their quality by having every movie that comes out and for Warner Brothers the next calendar year, once it's done, cycle its way to Netflix. So instead of having the knockoff version of like Die Hard or Cry Hard or some shit like that, where it's a guy who looked like Bruce Willis, because listen, if you got Netflix, you see those movies on there. You see them, and they make them because they have your main movie, and then they have the knockoffs, and you just sit there.
And what time of year they put out Cry Hard?
It's not a Christmas movie. So you are Godzilla. Instead of Godzilla, we have giant lizard from Tokyo. Some silly shit that they do. And you know what? People watch that stuff. But guess what? Now instead of watching the knockoff stuff, you have the main thing. So your Netflix subscriber, that gives you stability. And what have I would say that, yeah, growth is important for any company, any business, but retention is just as important. People leaving your subscription service is a death knell. So they've got that right. And now they're increasing their value of that. I just don't see why they would take away the infrastructure that is Warner Brothers and do anything to it, because that doesn't do Netflix any good. And I hear people say, well, Netflix just wants to get you, they want to get it to you right at home. They don't want you to go into the theaters. As Netflix, as a singular entity, yeah, 100%. That's their business model. That's what they do. Netflix, as a owner and merged company with Warner Brothers, I think that mission changes, because you no longer, people are always telling Netflix, you need to do this, you need to do that. They wanted them to take revenue and create an infrastructure that didn't fit their business model. They are now purchasing that. They no longer need to do that. They no longer need to affect Netflix in order to get the things that a lot of people thought and wanted them to have. I don't see, and plus it costs money to consolidate. You're already going to have to consolidate. So for the people who think Netflix is the end of the world for theatrical, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm looking at it from a pragmatic greed point of view of why would you get rid of the pre-existing infrastructure, the oldest studio, the prestige, that prestige now you own. You have that now. You don't need to fuck with Netflix at all. Netflix proper doesn't need Netflix proper can continue to do the things, but what you've done though is you've given yourself a tool to feed all that into there, and you don't have you for the price of what you're paying for it. I don't understand. And I think a lot of what Ted Sarandos is saying, I think some of it is being taken out of context a little bit, and also I think some of it is being taken. You got to realize everything that man is saying now. There's no such thing as an HBO net or a Warner Brothers Netflix complete company right now. So everything that these guys are saying is from the catbird seat of their own companies. So yeah.
So we got a couple super chats. So
yeah, I got the first
before we get to that. I did want to ask real quick, because you also kind of quote tweeted this. I shared with you, and I want to get your thoughts on Gunn and Safran had a contract extension, and I mean, depending on. I've seen like a lot of
talked about that last night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I had I had an unusually packed Saturday, guys, and I was dead tired. But it's like their contract got extended by 6 whole months. So I don't know. What are your
well, that lines up with when all this could go down. So I'm left in limbo, because if you look at when their contract was originally going to end, and you add, if you say spring of 2027,
that's like right before tomorrow's supposed to come out.
Okay, so a year from now, they're basically talking 2027, because we're in 2026 pretty much 3 weeks away. So yeah, you add the 4 months that puts you in the spring. That's nothing for me. All that does is it gives them time for certain things to come out. And you figure if this merger process, once it starts, you could be theoretically in the 4-month differential of when the merger is finalized.
Yeah.
So I would hope that once the merger is finalized and they say, you know what, we like what you're doing, let's go. But they don't have to. Here's the thing, and that's why I was always saying when people are like, there's no way they're going to get rid of this guy. No way, because I'm infinite YouTube guy and we all know everything. We don't know shit. I don't know shit. They're the ones that are controlling this. But if there was no way you were ever going to get rid of somebody, then you would do like you did with Abdi and DeLuca.
Yeah,
they're not getting rid of them.
They get like a 4 or 5 year extension on their contract.
You knew you weren't getting out. See, that's the way. And you have, listen, if you spend all this money, you have the right to do whatever the fuck you want. I don't have to agree with it. All I can do as a customer is stand back here and wait. Like I said, I'm not jumping into the pool until I know it's safe. And my time is valuable. And the one thing I don't want to do anymore is invest time into something where I don't know the stability of it. And nothing, that extension does nothing for me stability-wise. Now, if he'd have came out and gave, I thought that the same day that you announced Abdi and DeLuca, you don't have to do for it. They've done a lot more for Warner Brothers than James Gunn has. I understand. They gave them a 4 or 5 year deal, and that's fine.
Well, they've been there longer too. So.
They've been there longer. They're established. That's fine. How about 2 years? How about 2028, 2029?
Well, and see, the thing that's really kind of interesting to me about like when that extension ends is because Man of Tomorrow, it's supposed to come out, I think, July. It's almost like 2 years to the day from when Superman came out. So this would put that extension ending around like May of next year. So that's before the movie comes out. So, I mean, I would think that you would at least want to, even if they had decided, okay, this is like the extent of what we're going to be doing with James Gunn, I would think they'd at least would want to keep that until the movie comes out.
Unless they're going to use other things in between as their criteria, or they have their own vision. Listen, it would tear me up to go through this again. But if you're going to drop 82 billion, you have the right to come in and move the chairs around. I would recommend the same thing I was recommending with Paramount is let's stabilize the DC situation instead of uprooting it. I'm if you know, if it were me coming in, I'd give him a little bit more time. Even if it's just for us to assess and you know, see if he even wants to do it. There's another thing that I don't know, and that's missing from this. What's he thinking? What are James Gunn's intentions? Does James Gunn not want? There's a case to be made that maybe James Gunn wants to see how all this comes out. Maybe he, you know, says, you know what, let's put us in this time frame, and then let's get to here. It could be a two-way street. So for me, yeah.
Well, I've thought for a while too. I mean, because you're talking about like, and what everything that's going to be coming out next year is like it's stuff that he did not direct. So,
yeah, but it will still show his acumen as a studio head, though.
Well, I get that, but just in terms of just pure workload. I mean, you're talking about he's a studio head and he's directing an animated series and a season 2 of a prior show and a Superman movie. I mean that's a lot for somebody to take on.
That's a lot, but he has people he can delegate. He has people he can delegate. He'll be okay. But it comes down to this, and it's the same thing I've been saying since we began this DCU. I will support it as much as I can. I'm never gonna be there again. Not yet. I'd say never. I'm a long ways from being the instant, fan that I was prior to. Well, because
what you say, you're not on the court side seats. You're like watching at home.
Yeah, I'm at home. Yeah, I'm not at the wrestling arena in the ringside with my sign and my championship belt and everything else, screaming at the top of my lungs, taking selfie. I'm not there anymore. I was there with you, but you let me down. But I'm still rooting for you. But I'm doing it from here. I'm doing it from my sofa. I'm doing it from my computer. I'm doing it in a safe space so that if it turns out this thing falls apart from under me, then I can go into something else. I'm not going to get I'm not going to devote my any real attention to anything other than what we do now, as far as like expectations or anything else, until I know that, this guy is on stable ground. Because, if I start liking Blanchard, I start liking these things.
You don't want to be you don't want to be Charlie Brown trying to kick the football.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't, if you show me something and I want more of it and I don't get it, I'm in the same situation I was with the DCEU. I just don't have that kind of time. No one has that kind of time. All right, Larry, here's my modest take. Netflix told Zach to get ready because they're going to buy it. Gunn is still on board, obviously, so they can see how his stuff does before the deal goes down. Through an 18 months, both, in my opinion, compete with MCO. I don't think Netflix has had any conversations with Zack Snyder whatsoever, to be honest with you, about anything. I haven't seen the current status of anything that he was currently working on. This is when you're talking about $82 billion company with thousands of IPs and things like that. I would love to think that my favorite stuff is at the top of mind with these guys, but I doubt that anybody from Netflix is, as far as this goes, as far as the merger goes, has picked up a phone outside of certain circles. Because remember, this came out of nowhere.
By the way, I'm gonna go back. You skipped the Larry's Pride, or did you get that one already? The $5 one.
I got the $5 one.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that one had been skipped. I mean, one thing I will say on that is I did find it a little bit interesting when I'm sure you guys saw. It was about a week ago now when just Zach goes on Instagram and says, "Hey, it's a great day to stream Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max." I don't know if that's him like
that's us. That's I think that may be you reaching.
I mean, I've seen other people make that case, so make up that what you want.
Yeah, and look what other cases that those other people have made. So I mean, you're gonna need a little bit more. Once again, it's jumping into the pool when there's no water, just because you hope that there's water there. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to think, but at that point, if you're asking me, Larry, I don't think there's been any conversation. Now, does that mean that there can't be, or there will be at some point? Well, I don't think it's anything to do with this merger.
And let me be clear about that too. It's like, I mean, that's like right. I mean, they're not talking about greenlighting, not anything right now. I mean, it's like they're talking about like finalizing this, and plus we're like a couple weeks away from Christmas, so it's like, and we just got this process started that's going to take several months to finalize anyway. So it's like they're not green lighting any new stuff right now. They're not in talks with anybody.
The best way I can answer your question, or Larry or Super Chat, I don't think they, somebody could talk to Zack. I've never, talked to him on that level, obviously, but I don't think that something like that is anywhere near this merger or any remote conversation having to do with this merger. I think there are so many things that they would have to overcome just to get to the point where we're at right now, that as much as we love this IP and this version of this IP, it is nowhere near anyone else's priority, especially the people at the top of this company right now. So no, I don't think there's been any conversations with Zack Snyder. Could be wrong. Zack Snyder could give me an interview in 3 months and say, you know what, they gave me a call, and that's the only way any of us would ever know. I don't see any reason why they would be in communication with him like this. I don't think the aim of purchasing Netflix was Zack Snyder's Justice League or anything to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's a big difference when Disney purchased Fox because they wanted those comic book IPs. But this is, I think, I don't think that was anywhere near that. Does that open up the door for it to possibly happen mathematically? Possibly, yeah. I just don't think that was to do with anything that's going on with Netflix and Warner Brothers at the moment. Thank you for the $20 super chat, though. But I hope I answered your question.
Others that are actually on this very topic, so I might as well go ahead and bring them all up. Abdi and DeLuca are safe, but again, yeah, it's like they got extended for like 5 years, something like that. So they seem to be pretty locked in. We're getting something. Don't forget the Gunn and Snyder are friends. All this divisiveness, rage clickbait. They need to go big if they want to compete with. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up these other two because they're related. You think he was posting stuff randomly? No way, in my opinion. And I'm not saying Snyder will replace Gunn like some people want. I think this is our chance to have Gunn versus some Snyderverse too. And that's that Larry.
No on both, but go back to his first one.
And by the way, Larry, thank you for 20, 5, 20, 35. Thank you for $50 right there in super chats.
Thank you. Go back to the one before that.
This one?
Yeah. Because he's making a movie that doesn't have a distributor, and the biggest things that get the attention are going to be those things. Those things get a reaction. Those things keep that name, in the conversation. They remind you of who we're talking about and what he can do and what his capabilities are and what his fan base and what kind of fan base he can carry. Until until it's been revealed otherwise, I don't think that there's these secret clandestine conversations happening outside of the conspiracy theories type of things. But no, I don't, because once again, he had another one there. Let's see.
One about Abdi and DeLuca.
Yeah. Okay. Abdi and DeLuca were safe. We're getting something. Don't forget that Gunn and Snyder are friends.
You've been seeing that for a while too, William.
Well, yeah. You if you get something like this, Larry, you could get that now without this merger. If James Gunn and Zack Snyder are texting each other and are talking to it, it has nothing to do with the merger. I just want to make that's clear, because a lot of people are connecting the merger to the timing of Zack Snyder posting things like that. If he's not posting stuff randomly, and I don't know the man, so I'm assuming if he's not posting something randomly and he's been talked to about any of this, it would be James Gunn who's doing it. It would be a bomb James Gunn would drop. That is a possibility. I don't have anything indicating that has happened yet.
Well, and that's why I kind of ask, okay, like with this happening now, like, I mean, again, with Netflix being the new buyers, like, what is that? Do they have any say in like green lighting Warner Bros. Stuff, and would that extend to DC related projects?
Well, the DC Studios would be James Gunn and Warner Brothers Pictures, but the entirety of the IP would be Warner Brothers, because they would actually own the IP. Like I was saying last night, I fully expect them to exploit those IPs in ways that fit their clientele, because an HBO Max customer and HBO Warner Brothers customer is not necessarily the same. There are different demographics, different viewing habits, different preferences. There's a lot of things, and that's why these are two distinct companies.
So you're saying we could see different? Like,
I think they're going to. I've
like
always said that though.
like DC, like DC stuff. Say different DC stuff, like on HBO Max versus Netflix.
Yeah, but they're not going to be DCU things. Netflix,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's like it'll be the equivalent to what Sandman is right now. It'll be things that that Netflix will want to do that fit their clientele. That because nobody's going to know Netflix clientele better than those guys, and they just who froze. Okay. You can't automatically assume that the two streaming services, the two companies, they are going to have some overlap. But Netflix people have viewing habits that HBO Max people just don't sometimes. So you could use these, and I fully expect them to use these IPs to tell stories conducive to what is in their streaming services, while DC Studios handles the DCU in a way that is conducive to what they're doing in their audience that they know. I don't know how frequent it's going to be, but to me, if I were in the room and you're not doing that, fuck you. If we just drop 80 billion, 82 billion in this company and we have valuable IPs like that, and you're just sitting around waiting to see what somebody does over here before you do something over here, fuck you. Let's do something here. And it does not have to affect anybody because, once again, we have a Netflix crew and a Netflix audience that has made that part of their day more so than going to the movies. So we need to be making content no matter what it is for those people. So anybody who thinks, I'm sorry, but anybody who thinks that they're not going to exploit the DC IP outside of the DCU, come on, seriously. Thank you for the
And this also is interesting. Did you guys cover the news about DC licensing to other theme parks, including Universal, and time to invest in Netflix?
Yeah, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, it's really.
We're going to do that with or without Netflix.
But it's interesting. I mean, because I can't think offhand of because Marvel's. I've been to Universal Islands of Adventure. They've got Marvel Island there. It's like I can't think of anything like equivalent to that DC's done theme park wise. So it's like, what say?
No, I don't think that. That's something they should have been doing. They're behind the ball on that, by the way. That's something that was going to be happening with or without the Netflix merger because they need to raise revenue. And what have I been saying for fucking 36 months now is the easiest way to make that type of revenue without putting yourself at risk is to let people license and do this stuff. Let them pay for the overhead. Let them pay for the infrastructure, and you keep the distribution rights. Let's see, they're a distributor. So any toys or anything that you make that have to do with that IP, you get the major cut of that.
I would be down. I'd be totally down there. I mean, kind of.
Hold on, let me finish my thought real quick, because I'll forget it. Don't forget the power of the distribution rights of all these things. Having that infrastructure already in place with Warner Brothers is kind of priceless, and I don't see them chopping that down. That allows them automatically. Why would you mess with that at Warner Brothers only to have to build it yourself under Netflix when you have it there already? So all right, go ahead.
Universal and DC World, and it's interesting. I mean, bringing it back a little bit that Snyder stuff. I always thought they could do a really awesome theme park thing with a nightmare. Imagine a nightmare land or something like that. I'd be down.
I mean, I would. There's other things you could do. I mean, you could do Gotham City. You could do Metropolis.
You could do OA. Imagine OA with Green Lanterns.
There's a lot you could do. I mean, you could rotate it out.
Aaron.
We need movies to be in theaters longer than 2 weeks. People are busy and would miss it. But here's I can strike that down immediately. Look what happens to the movies that are in. Some of these movies that are in 3 and 4 and 5 weeks. The reason why you would cut that out is because you see the diminishing returns with each week. And now you have other movies coming in. So you're going to limit the screens of your brand new movies, which is going to be the front end where everybody comes to see them, just to keep, if people, people are busy, great. I'm busy. Plenty of people with kids find a way to go see the movies that they want to see. And if they can't afford them, then they're not coming anyway. They're waiting for you in streaming no matter what. So I don't see why am I keeping I mean, 2 weeks might be extreme, but after 3 weeks, you're gonna know whether the film has legs or not, and you got another movie coming. So yeah, I don't see. I think from a fan's point of view, it sounds romantic to keep these in forever, and but from a infrastructure point of view, I don't see much demand in it, especially when a good portion of your revenue isn't really coming from the theaters anymore. It's coming from other places. So I don't think we need. For me personally, I don't, like I said, I don't know a movie that I wanted to see or waited to see that I waited till week 3 to see. And if the numbers, after say we compromise on 3 weeks, if the numbers are strong in week 3, then you keep it going. But if it starts to tail off at a certain percentage, and you can start doing projections of where it's going to be in weeks 3 and 4, you have a responsibility to make a profit for the company that you work for. Let's see. I like Will Ferrell and I can take Will Ferrell in small doses.
It's the best Will Ferrell movie by far.
Small doses,
and it's a Christmas classic.
It is a absolutely fucking
Christmas
stupid
classic.
movie.
It's every bit the Christmas classic.
All the movies that he's in, to be honest with you, I think he's got a serious role somewhere. But we were talking about that. But for the most part, it's buffoonery, and it has a shelf life. Like him on Saturday Night Live, I love. He's funny. When he's on Saturday Night, he's one of the funniest things on there. In small doses, there are a lot of people who've gone on the
cotton-headed Nitty Muggins.
I have seen a lot of people that go from Saturday Night Live and try to replicate that success, and then you're sitting in there, you're realizing, 5 minutes is about enough for you.
Well, the guy I think fell the most victim to that really was Mike Myers. I really look back. I think Shrek really is where he's had the most consistency, and because I mean, really, like Austin Powers really kind of went downhill, and don't even get me started on The Love Guru, which basically killed his career.
I don't know this. Listen, once again, everything you guys are bringing up and other YouTubers bringing up is not completely off the table. I'm just trying to figure out why. I say no. I see Harry Potter going straight through HBO Max because of once again that cycle of prestige. HBO, it's the reason why they bought those 3 letters back to Max. HBO, whether it's HBO Linear, which is kind of useless, or HBO Max, that HBO, that says something to people even who don't even have HBO. So if you put something that has been cycled through HBO on Netflix, it has more weight. It's almost like for the price you're paying for Netflix, you're getting other shit. You're getting prestige. You're not just getting, the giant lizard from the island of Japan. You're not, with a rubber Godzilla look like. You're not getting that. You're getting the top tier stuff that you might not be afford to see when it comes out the movie. It raises the value. And if it raises the value of the subscription service, you can grow a little bit, but you can also maintain those numbers. That's the reason why if you have stable income like that, that is why people give Netflix money to do crazy shit. That's why they could pull this money out of their ass in 2 minutes. That's why they can operate at a $14 billion debt, because they make so much money consistently that the lenders know you're good for it. So this adds to that. And what Randall said about giving the viewers call, there are people who never leave anything a corporate stiff said, and that's fine. I can understand that. But just take those words and take his voice away from him and look at it from a point of view. If you're a Netflix subscriber right now, yeah, your price might go up, but if you're getting access to HBO content that you hadn't had before, without having to get that, subscription service, maybe it works. I don't think they're going to get rid of HBO Max. That's once again cycle of prestige. Why would you get rid of this? It's like you're taking something and you're running it through a machine and making it even shinier and more worthy, and then you're handing it to the people who are not necessarily paying for that value. I think they keep this company mostly. Are there going to be changes? Of course. There's no such thing without a merger or an acquisition without changing. I just don't think that while the panic is not unfounded, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves as far as the being the dinosaurs looking up at the sky, and here comes a meteorite. I just think we should slow down a little bit. Okie dokie. Aaron, and I can see if you already had a Netflix account, would you be able to create an HBO Max account using your pre-existing? Possibly, but I would just give you
like would this be like
yeah.
if you like have HBO membership or HBO subscription, would that grant you HBO Max?
I wouldn't if I'm trying to make money. What I would do is kind of like Hulu and Disney, but not a shitty interface that has, by the way. But I would do like Hulu, Disney, whereas you have certain sections with each app that you can go to get certain content. So when you log into your Netflix, you're going to have a WB area where there are certain things in the library that we're constantly rotating in. So if it's the Harry Potter movies, so now they're in the Warner Brothers section or in this section, but you would have access to enough. But I wouldn't, because eventually we would want you going to both. At the very least. So I wouldn't, but they might do that. I hope that they've learned from the Zaslav mistake from before, making Discovery and all this other stuff to say, I got the pimple popper shit next to my my Superman movies. I don't know, the audiences are not the same. So let's see. Great to see everybody. Okay, I'm getting past the super chats. Thank you, Larry, for all that. Well, wow, you did a lot of them. I want to see Warner Brothers Netflix theme parks. You may see that. There's money in them. I mean, I don't know if they'll pull in what Disney pulled in, but I mean, how much? It depends on how much it cost you to do that. All right, Clone Adventure, thanks for coming by and thanks for watching in the future. Yeah, I mean, you have other things that you can play, but and that's if you have enough screens. Like, once again, even with things hitting streaming really quick as they are now, I can walk into a theater and they're playing all new movies. There's something on those screens. And if you figure you go to the law of averages, most people see a movie they want to see within the first 2 weeks. Those new movies are getting the highest yield. They're getting the most money out of what's on their screen right now. So am I not putting those movies up because I want to keep another movie a third or fourth week? The screen time alone dictates. I don't know if that's good. And the fact that, why are you doing this if you have other platforms that you need to keep viable? I've heard about that too. I might even go to that. Yeah, blame Brad. Yeah, he just just totally abandons us mid show. Don't you love that? I mean, I do it to you too, but there's a reason. But Brad, I don't know what the fuck Brad's doing. All right, guys. So we're gonna get through these topics really quick. 45 years ago this weekend, Flash Gordon, one of the very first movies I saw in a movie theater, was released. And 6-year-old me just had a field day. And I've had an opportunity to meet Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon himself, on several different occasions. And this movie, Dino De Laurentiis production did this movie. Flash Gordon, 45 years ago, we were in a different time. Flash Gordon was ahead of its time. And people weren't making movies like Flash Gordon. People were not making movies. People were not taking the risk. And this movie was kind of pricey. If you look at the sets and stuff, it looks kind of cheesy now, 45 years later. But for that time, for that scale, that was a big risk. You had high-end actors. Max von Sydow is one of the best to ever do it. Rest in peace. He was probably the most notable person on there. But the Queen soundtrack was what really ingrained Flash Gordon into the zeitgeist, into pop culture. Just the opening song alone. Just the opening song alone. That soundtrack did very well. It was one of the first times that I can remember where a band pretty much did everything that was on the soundtrack. They would do this twice in the 80s. The other one would be Highlander. But and just like Highlander, the Queen soundtrack, which would be its own thing, is inseparable from the perception of this movie. Brian May's guitar scores all through this movie was something that is you just know it for it. Even some of the people who have not seen Flash Gordon, they know that song. Flash, they know all that. It's been mimicked. It's been it has been homage. I mean, it's been all the above when it comes to this movie. It is where I made my first connection to Queen. It is where I first understood what Queen really was as a band, and it was like listening to opera. And the term space opera to me really clicks here when it comes to Flash Gordon. I mean, if there's any movie that epitomizes space opera, whatever the fuck that term ever meant, it's Queen. It's Flash Gordon. It's over the top. It's gabbish. I mean, cartoonish outfits. It's very sexualized for 1980. The colors are brilliant. Everything about this, and for it to be 45 years old today, it's like you can still see certain things that have carried over into the modern movie making. If you look at comic book movies, you look at any type of movie in this genre, 1980 they weren't really doing a lot of that. Star Wars and Star Trek had the big budgets. Other movies did not have budgets like this, and they didn't have soundtracks like this. This was one of the movies. And where a soundtrack to me was probably the most important, and not just a soundtrack, because you had movies that had scores. All your movies had scores, but they didn't have a named band playing music for them. And this was a year before MTV. This was before MTV would immediately associate the music with the movies. And from this point on, the 80s and the mid 90s was what built that. Now you don't really see it a lot. But this Flash Gordon and Highlander, and Beverly Hills Cop 2. A lot of these, all these movies in the 80s started. You would associate the songs and the sound with the movie, and vice versa. There was no separation. But Flash Gordon was the one that did it, in my opinion. From my point of view, it's the one that did it first. And when you read, I read the Flash Gordon comic strips and comics after I saw the movies, and I felt kind of underwhelmed. Because a lot of times it's the other way around. The comics just don't get it. They don't, dude, I'm reading the comic strips, and I'm like, what? Where's my Hawkman? Where's all my brilliant colors? It just never matched. But one of the cooler movies, and I have these posters here signed by Flash himself. I've met him at Comic-Con in the last 2 years. Cool guy, ex-Marine, damn jarheads. Still, people recognize him to this day. He looks great for 75, by the way, or 70, whatever it is. But Flash Gordon was released on this day, or not, this weekend. It was actually released on the 5th, December 5th, 1980. 45 years ago. Most of you guys weren't alive, but there you go. All right. What else we got on there? We already talked about it. Welcome to Derry. I won't spoil anything for those of you who want to watch the spoiler reaction. You can go watch it. I've already told people what I think of the series and where I think it's going, and the fact that out of all these streaming services, this one is up there near the top of them. All right. Other thing on the thumbnail is I usually don't do this because I generally don't give a shit about teasers because they don't really do much for you. However, when it comes to Supergirl Worlds of Tomorrow,
the teaser for the trailer.
The teaser for the trailer, which is he's saying it's a teaser trailer. I'm not real sure what that means. But here's the thing.
For the teaser trailer.
And we don't even know what a trailer is anymore. Once again, if it doesn't give you the basis, if it doesn't introduce you to, if it doesn't do certain things, it's not a trailer. I think people get those confused. But anyway, doesn't matter because I don't need one of the major things that a trailer is going to give you, a full trailer, is the premise. And I already know that. I already know what the premise is going to be. Are they going to cover this one for one? They don't really have to. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. You brought the guy who wrote that. You're going to interchange some pieces. I understand. I mean, you're going to fit Lobo. There's a million characters, a million places you can fit Lobo and still keep the story intact. But I know the premise. And judging from her scene in Superman, it's consistent with this premise. So if you don't give me a premise in this teaser, this trailer, I personally, as an Uber geek, don't really necessarily need it. The general audience may have a little issue, but me personally, I'm actually more looking forward to this movie than I ever was Superman because of the story. Mosquitoes. It's December 7th. What the fuck? The premise has been set for so long, and let me. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up off of James Gunn's Twitter page, so I don't get knocked off again. I had it up. And it's a simple thing. It's her sitting. Here we go. It's her sitting on your share screen. Oh, dude, why am I dealing with mosquitoes in wintertime? Don't understand. Hold on. Screen. It's good. There we go. So this is what we got. And I guess this Thursday. Is this Thursday? Is Thursday they're saying?
Yeah, that's what speculated or rumored or whatever. Yeah.
Well, the DC official said it's coming this week, so I'm going to go with that.
It's this week.
Yeah.
Why does this font look so Venom to me?
I don't know.
That text font looks very, very Venom.
All right, so there you have it. That's kind of cool. Like I said, I am. This is one of his projects that I was looking forward to from the start because I like the story. So I'm all over it, and pretty much it. I mean, we're gonna have the trailer. We'll do a trailer watch thing on there. But even though this is the movie I'm more excited for than Superman, with everything going on with Warner Brothers and DC, I am going to keep things at arm's length. By the time this movie comes out, who the fuck knows where we're going to be movie wise? But it looks like it's a lot of fun. That's all I'm really going to go into it for. I mean, that's it. I mean, we are still. What you're staticking again? We are still 6-7 months away. So
supposed to be out June 15th, I think.
June. So that's June 6th. So we're 7 months away. 7 months away. In between then we'll probably get a more full fleshed out trailer. But the premise is I know the premise, so I'm not really going to be like why are we not getting to know. I already know the premise. Seeing Lobo for the first time. Not a real fan of that character. Rest in peace, Keith Giffen. I've always thought of Lobo for what, in my opinion, he
finally
is.
Momoa looks like with the Lobo makeup and nothing else.
Yeah. Is a
I
poor man.
guess I guess they're saving like the reveal for the actual trailer. I mean, and I've seen so much like this I find so awesome. Are so in. There's so many like so many people reporting out there. So we hear Lobo's gonna be in the trailer. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. He's in the trailer because he's in the movie. You think they're gonna hide him?
Who knows? I've always thought of Lobo as a poor man's Wolverine, and that's basically who he was to me. Right down to the cheap cigar. Once Wolverine stopped wearing his mask, when he went to the brown and yellow costume for a while, he would wear his hood, but he would wear it down, and you got to know him for Logan. That's where you got the name from earlier on. And the sideburns and then the cigar, and then all of a sudden here comes Omega Man number 12, and here's the same guy acting and talking the same like him in a cheap cigar, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I never really liked the character, and as he's been written, I've never had any use for Lobo, even while he was written by the great Keith Giffen. Hey, listen, I love Keith Giffen, but he did some stuff I just don't like. And I just, every time I saw him in the character, I stopped reading Legion when they started throwing him in there. And then they put him in Legion of Superheroes for a little bit. I'm like, it's tired. I just thought the character was a tired, cliche character. But hey, Jason Momoa is playing him. Jason Momoa will probably add more to that character than that character's ever had in its existence, in my opinion. And we'll see how it goes. As long as he fits in the story, I'm there for it. But yeah, we got a trailer coming this week. We also we're supposed to have an Avengers trailer sometime in the near future. That one's gonna blow the doors off of everything. So that one,
I think we'll see this one too.
Yeah, this week. So depending on which one happens first, well, one of them is not going to get talked about. After one, because you're going to have an Avengers trailer is going to eclipse a Supergirl trailer. I think Supergirl is still going to do well, but here's the thing, though: we're all going to be talking comic book movies, so I think Supergirl trailer could piggyback on top of that. So I will definitely be talking about both of them. So that's it. Teaser for a teaser. I don't even like that, but there you go. All right, another movie that was released today, 46 years ago, is Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And people who tell you that the odd numbers stop that nonsense. The odd numbers of Star Trek movies are the bad ones to skip. Do not listen to those people. Get those people out of your life. And Star Trek is it's a process. It's a process. It's a long movie. It's an orchestral movie. It's not the quick gratification that like Wrath of Khan is or First Contact is, but it's a brilliant movie. It was released and it set the stage, and it let them know what they could do with Star Trek on the big screen, because Star Trek: The Motion Picture was not supposed to happen. Star Trek: The Motion Picture came from a project called Star Trek Phase 2. And if you look at the original posters, I actually had one here before we sold it. The original posters, I want to get rid of that stuff. There you go. If you look at the original posters that came that were in development, the Enterprise looks different. It was supposed to be a TV show, because when Star Trek got canceled or taken off the air, its popularity rose. Its popularity rose in syndication and reruns. You started having conventions. They realized that there was a following for this, and a huge following. And when Star Wars came about, they saw an opening to make this movie or this show. And what ended up happening is, by the time they got everything put together, what it would cost and the resources it would cost to do this show, the show wasn't feasible, but a movie was, because it allowed you to spend the money all at once, and you would not have to maintain that level throughout, especially in the 80s when shows were getting put on and canceled. Battlestar Galactica, people think Battlestar Galactica lasted 1,000 years. It lasted one season. So, all those shows, especially the Glenn A. Larson type shows, were just shows to get put on, last as much as they could, throw them away, plug in another show. So they did not think that the budget for what they were just Star Trek Phase 2 was something that they should be spending on, when the era that they were in were shows like Buck Rogers and just stuff that was economical, and that's how you got Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I love this movie. I mean, I know it's long. I know it doesn't. It's one of the few movies that have a slower pace that I don't mind. It reintroduces you into an Admiral Kirk now, who's done with his 5-year mission. He's been promoted to Admiral. He has Willard Deckard take his place while the Enterprise goes under a massive refit, basically to bring it up to date. To the ship that we were seeing in the 60s was not going to fly in the late 70s going into the 80s. So they refitted it and modernized it, and which is one of the cooler things to see that reveal and how they do that. You have a brand new captain. It brings back Spock. It brings back everybody. It brings back all the old familiars. Uhura. It's in 1979. Uhura's got that fro. Oh my God. And those sideburns, even though we're supposed to be in the 23rd century. But Jerry Goldsmith's score on this is one of the best that's ever been done. If you guys don't know who Jerry Goldsmith is, um, think of Hans Zimmer. Think of all the contemporary ones, right, that are out there right now. Oh, John Williams is part of that generation. The score alone was worth the movie. But there is no real enemy in here. It's V'ger. It's the Voyager 6 satellite that we sent out, and it went into a machine world, into a black hole, ended up with a machine world, and created an apparatus that wanted to learn from the maker. Since our satellite was sending signals back, once that satellite was given sentience and created V'ger, its whole entire mission was to get all that it could learn and report it back to its creator. And that was the whole mystery. Who's the creator? Is it some kind of God? The creator was us. The creator was who created the Voyager satellite. And the planet, they never really go into depth of the machine people. The machine people that created, a lot of people speculate years later after the fact that it could be the Borg, but the Borg at that time were not benevolent. Was that the one? Okay, I thought so. The Borg were not benevolent at that time, so I would like to see a story. But yeah, it's this big mystery type of thing, but it set the stage for everything else that came after. It's my true belief, and this is just one Star Trek nerd's opinion. You don't get the Next Generation without what they do with Star Trek's 1, 2, 3. Now, Star Trek 4, by the time you got Star Trek 4 in 1986, Star Trek The Next Generation was already in production. But Star Trek 2 was a massive hit. And it showed you that, even though the series had only been on the air for the 3 years, that it had built a culture, a Trek culture. And it had built a following beyond the people who were alive when it was made. Star Trek went off the air before I was born. I was handed Star Trek by the old man. I inherited Star Trek from him. And a lot of people did. So now we have this show that lasted 3 years that has a generational impact. And now we've had Star Wars motion picture. Oops, Trek is going to come after me. Star Trek the motion picture. You reintroduce those people to an entire new genre, and it did well. Then we have Wrath of Khan. Many people think Wrath of Khan arguably is the best Star Trek movie ever made. I think it's up there with First Contact. Those are my top two. But once again, you don't have Star Trek Wrath of Khan without Star Trek the motion picture. Once again, we return to Admiral Kirk. We reintroduced this franchise and put it in front of more people than had ever seen it. So without Star Trek the motion picture, and I think that even Gene Roddenberry understood that, because the theme song that is used in Star Trek the motion picture is the theme song that goes in front of Star Trek Next Generation. I think if the movies don't happen, I don't think we get a Star Trek Next Generation. People can argue with me and tell me, no, it was. I don't know if you have any way to gauge the demand without the movies. Without this movie, you don't have Wrath of Khan. Even if you think Wrath of Khan is a better movie, and I do, you don't get there without there. So 46 years ago, I look on this movie as fondly. I saw this in a re-release. When I was 6 years old. It got released when I was 5 years old. The old man saw it, didn't think I would be able to comprehend it. Then he just said, fuck it. He doesn't need to comprehend it. He just needs to see ships and space and all that, and he'll be fine. And he was right. I think this movie, more so than the show Star Trek, made me the Star Trek nerd that I am. The majesty of this movie is unlike. There is no other Star Trek movie that has the majesty and the scope as this. Even though there are other ones that are better, don't get me wrong. But the whole, it was like they took this low budget franchise and they souped it up, and they gave it everything you would ever need. They took away the banjo and gave you an electric guitar. They took away the bongo drums and gave you a drum kit. They made it prestige, and they had to, because of what Star Wars was doing, what Alien was doing later that year, or earlier that year. So we were going into an era where you couldn't do cheese anymore, even if that's where it came from. Star Trek, for a lot of people, is cheesy. It is a product of its era, but once it came back and was reintroduced, it became something just huge. And I think a lot of it is owed to Star Trek, the motion picture. I really don't think we have Trek as we know it today without that movie proving to the fat cats in the suits that we could do this on this scale. We could do this on a Star Wars scale. And to be honest with you, even though I prefer Trek more than I prefer Star Wars is why we got this. Star Wars told people that we need to get into space with these damn shows in these movies. Ridley Scott would recognize it. Everybody, from the 80s on would recognize it, but Star Wars opened the door for this. And like I said, Star Trek, the motion picture is a very important movie. You doesn't have to be at your top 10, but I think everybody should recognize the relevance. Now, you were negative like 20 or whatever when this came out, but have you seen Star Trek, the motion picture?
I have not seen the original, no. The only movies I've seen are, I think it's called The Kelvin Timeline.
Stop it. It's my fault, gentlemen. I asked him the question.
Chris Pine as Kirk. Those are the ones I've seen.
I asked him the question, knowing I was probably going to be horrified of the answer, but that's fine. But you know what? That actually underscores the importance of that movie, because that movie brought in your generation. And people knock the whole night. Oh, I can't believe this. No, regardless of how you feel about Chris Pine, Captain Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Spock, that movie brought in an entire generation of Star Trek fans that were not there before. A lot of the Trek that we have now is a continuation of that generation, because they weren't watching the old TOS. I mean, not everybody was on, but to them, it looks ancient. It was like when you take a hip kid to a museum. I mean, he's just not into it. But when you take him to like the mob museum or the rock and roll museum, it's cool now. It made Star Trek cool to a whole new generation that we as Trek fans, in my opinion, desperately need. And that's why whenever I hear people argue against this isn't Star Trek, I defied my own beliefs and got into a back and forth conversation. It was civil with old Trek fan. I am an old Trek fan, but when I say old Trek fan, I'm not talking about old Trek fan as an age. I'm talking an old Trek fan as in the Roddenberry Bible clutching, keep the gate closed, don't let anybody else in. It has to stay the same way. That guy, or those people, because sometimes it's women. You got to come to an understanding when a franchise has been around 50, 60, whatever years, not everything is going to be for you. Same thing with wrestling. Some of the stupid shit that they do in wrestling today, it wasn't meant for me to absorb it. I had my time. It's up to me whether I want to intake this, but I think that Star Trek isn't a place to where you are going to show this to somebody who is going to take it in a different direction and view it in a different direction. And I think that should be allowed. I want the franchise to be around 100 years after I'm dead. Old Trek fan is coming with me to the grave. So what? Star Trek is dies when they go. So yeah, but this movie started it all as far as a cinematic level. It like I said, it showed people. It's kind of like X-Men. Let me know if you need anything up here. It's kind of like X-Men was. Yeah, we had some comic book movies. We had Batman. We had Superman. We didn't have anything on the scale. Yeah, we didn't have anything on the scale of X-Men as far as an ensemble cast, as far as a continuous world building cast, and that's, I think, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, regardless to where, and the same thing with X-Men. Are these the best? Is X-Men the best comic book movie ever? I mean, some people might think so. I don't, but it is what it did that makes it so important. So I put Star Trek: The Motion Picture in that. So hey, for those of you guys who are going to be watching this later or going to be clipping this out, what do you think about Star Trek: The Motion Picture? Are you one of the new generation that hasn't seen it yet and then came in like Brad did? That's important too. It blows my mind that there's people out there like that, but we need them. If you came in 2009 and you love that, and that's why you're in Trek right now, we're part of a brotherhood. I can always say the mansion has a bunch of doors and windows and a big dinner table in the middle. I don't care how you get in, as long as you end up in the same place. So Star Trek, the motion picture, very important, very influential. What do you guys in the chat think? Are you guys old enough to appreciate that? But then again, you know what? I appreciate The Godfather, and it was made before I was born, so there you go. I grew up watching Star Trek. Same here. Everybody like and subscribe. There's a few of you here right now. Aaron, I like that. I liked Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I kind of has the same vibes as two that. I'm cringing because that's sort of right, but I think the fact that it's Star Trek, because when I watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I'm not lost. When I watch 2000 Space Odyssey, I'm just a Cro-Mag. I don't get that movie, but I get Star Trek, so maybe so. William, it's funny that you said multiple times that old Star Trek fans enjoy. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Enjoy Abrams movies, but they say it's not true. They destroyed the franchise. They went and saw it. Okay, old Trek fan is never going to come out because they'll lose their old Trek man or old Trek card. Old Trek fans saw that movie. You know, every now and then I'm in the midst of old Trek fan, and they'll slip up and be like, "Oh," and then if I look at them, I'm like, all right. Old Trek fans saw that movie, and guess what? Even if old Trek fan hadn't seen that movie, and they did, it wasn't made for old Trek fan. Old Trek fans, we have Star Trek. Like there's a Starfleet Academy show going on. It's the poster. My God, even dead old Trek fans, I think, came up out of the grave to protest this. It was, it looks like Friends. It looks like some teeny bopper, blah, blah, blah. Okay, listen, dude. As we go into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, who the fuck are they making this for? It can't stay the same. It needs to stay right. Well, that's not Trek. And I hate that. That's what gets me in these back and forth with old Trek fan. It's not up to us to determine that. Well, no, it's Roddenberry, and this is the way Trek's been for years, so it's been a record. Listen, you may think that the way things are done dictate the way things will always be done, but what you cannot and do not dictate is how a new generation perceives it. Our perception of this new Trek is kind of meaningless. We have our Trek my entire life. But as somebody who doesn't want to see the franchise go away, I understand that it needs to be relatable to a generation. Just like every Trek that came out was relatable to the generation. The fucking Star Trek was the Cold War, basically. Russians, the Chinese, and American in that Cold War era. You know, that's why having all the multiracial things, because we were beyond that as we were living in it, though. So yeah, listen. Lower Decks, not my favorite Star Trek show. My least favorite Star Trek show. But I don't anger watch it. I don't go after people who like it. I'm glad you have it. I got plenty of Trek to watch. You're not forcing me to watch Lower Decks all the time. I've watched it. I've had some laughs, but it's just not for me. But I don't go around saying, "Oh, it's not Star Trek." I hate that. I hate that. That is literally the gatekeeping mentality. Even when it comes down to the Batman stuff, I've always said I can't stand the Batman animated series as far as its effect and its influence on future interpretation. Not it as a product or the people who watch it. But if that's how you came into Batman and that makes you happy to watch it, I don't have to watch it with you. We'll meet somewhere else on the Batman playground where we have more mutual interest. But I would never advocate for your thing not to happen, or for you to be miserable for liking it. And I think that's where Trek has to really, build a brand new generation and give everybody else the decision, watch it or not. I hate to say that because you never want people to stop watching your product. But at some point you have to evolve, and it may be in a direction that old Trek fan is just not willing to go with you with. Me personally, if I don't like it, I don't watch it. You're in the cinema right now and you're tired. Okay, that's kind of sad. Turn us off and watch your movie, man. Star Trek, the motion picture is like having an English breakfast cup of tea. Okay, never quite heard it. It makes me relaxed. Yeah, I mean, it is a okay. The word I like to use. It is a very serene movie, but it still keeps me engaged because it's Star Trek. I think that's where 2001: Space Odyssey loses me because I don't have any interest in those people. I like a Clone Wars type of show, but with Star Trek. All right. We are at 9:30. I think we did it. We covered. Lately I've been fucking up. By the way, guys, I'm sorry. I've been putting shit on the thumbnail and patting myself on the back of how good the thumbnail is, and then went on to skip the fucking subject. And then like a day later, I'm like, we didn't talk about that, did we? Ah, shit. It's a good thumbnail though. All right, the rest of the show is what you guys got any questions? This is your time. We got about another 10 minutes. This is your time. Brad, do you want to bring up anything that you haven't since your ass ain't been here the last couple of days? Oh, I said it. Did Mike catch that?
I can't wait for the Furious.
Okay, anything relevant. I'm sorry. I should have prefaced that.
Okay, Kenji Tanigaki is very close to being finished with the Furious.
Okay, anything that our audience is going to care about. I'm sorry.
We're probably going to see the trailer for the Furious and the release date pretty soon because he's so close to
this
it.
This is why, audience. This is why I don't. I mean,
Aaron and Perp and that at you a little bit ago.
Okay. Get off my lawn. Hunter Iggy, long time no see. William, did you fellas? Yeah, we saw it. We saw it.
Played that a little bit ago.
Yeah, she's wearing her jacket though. She's wearing the jacket that she wears in the comic book. So what is that? What are you about to get us kicked off with?
It's Kenji, like you just sharing. Oh yeah, the Furious. It's like it's out soon.
All right, guys. Audience, listen. Let's pick Brad up. Do any of you guys give a fuck about the Furious? Seriously, and that's no disrespect to be. It's just not our gig, man. Why do you keep? I don't, just don't demand for that.
That would be so cool too. I'm gonna pull this one picture.
It'd be all cool if you do the kung fu show that I've offered you to do.
Oh, that would be our kick. How would I make that our kickoff? That'd be great. Yeah,
we really want to kick off. What is that?
It'd be so cool. What's the open?
That's the editing room.
Yeah, because he's saying I'm doing like the last couple of days of like posts and ADR, and then I think it'd be so cool. This probably isn't going to happen, but I think it'd be so cool if like the movie starts and we get the title there, and then like a fist punches through that title. I think it'd be so awesome.
It's actually a real person. This is something that my customers use in the restaurant, but this is the things he's getting. He's got good taste. I turned him on to all this. This is the Martian Man, Absolute Martian Manhunter, Absolute. The first story arc, which is Martian Vision, which is excellent. If you like weird shit that you might have to read a couple of times. Get DCKO number 2. This is better than I had any business thinking it would be. Whenever they do these big events, I've never been a biggest fan of those because of DC usually fucks them up. They have not fucked this up. DCKO is actually pretty good. Marvel Zombies, Red Band. This actually takes place at a different particular times, as you can see. The black costume on both Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman, and Spider-Man. X-Men Apocalypse. I've been the Age of Apocalypse is actually, how I feel about the 90s. Wasn't good. This is one of the 3 or 4 things out of the 90s that was like really, really good, and they didn't overdo at the time. This X-Men Age of Apocalypse is one of the most unique things I've ever seen in all my time around comics. And now they have the X-Men of Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse, or Age of Revelation. It's a story that ties back to the original timeline, what happened in the 30 years after that. I love this cover. This is one of the covers I put on our social media. I love when they do magic. Magic is one of those characters, doesn't matter who the artist is, you can't do a bad job. J. Scott Campbell does a lot of her covers, and this cover, I don't forget who did this cover, but this cover reminded me of Bill Sikowicz, and his art is great. Here's another one. Once again, I turned him on to Absolute Universe as it was coming out, and here's the Green Lantern. Absolute Green Lanterns, a variant cover. I love that cover. It's the black hand going up against the lantern and the lantern ring. The variants for the Absolute Universe have been absolutely great. I've loved them. Like I said, I told Scott Snyder, man, you literally kept lights on and shit here. So, and this is the new Doctor Strange number 1 that they've done, Legacy number 451. But he grabbed that too. So that's what he grabbed. So he'll be back here in a second. Let's see. I'm an old Trek fan. I also like to do stuff. Yeah, I'm old Trek fan. But like I said, there's a civil war going on with us and our people. Unfortunately, it's just hold on, why I was doing this. I don't like that setup. Here's the setup. There we go. I'm old Trek fan, but I'm not that old Trek fan. I'm not going to get all up in arms when there's some Trek there I just don't agree with. To me, I'm looking at it from my angle. Allow somebody to look at it from theirs, I mean, I might joke about I might make fun of you a little bit, but I'm not gonna like destroy you for liking something that especially if it's a part of a franchise that just was literally created to bring people together. Star Trek was literally something that you watch. It brings generations together. Fathers hand it to their sons, So yeah, I'm a big Trek fan when it comes to this one. Dude, why do they make the prices so small? Fuck. Okay, it's 18. Any closing notes there, Brad? Anything?
No, I mean, again, not a whole lot news-wise gotten. So, I mean, I guess we know we're getting at least 2 trailers this week, so we'll definitely have plenty to talk about with that.
Let's see. 35. Let's see. 35. Thank you. Did you? Yeah, you didn't go see Five Nights at Freddy. You're not one of the many people.
No,
Yeah.
I get the chance to this. Yeah, this weekend. Didn't. Again, I had done usually because of the Christmas party at the school and then the parents' night out. What was
the Christmas party like? Are they all in geese and like all doing like black belt?
On the mat, just party and also selling merch in the school and things like that. So it was pretty fun. But
do you guys dress up like the Last Dragon? Are you showing?
Not dress up like the Last Dragon.
Did you have To the Beat of the Rhythm of the Night playing the whole time?
No, we had Christmas music playing.
Nobody was screaming, "Showing up!"
No. Oh, okay, so I can't talk about the Furious. My excitement for that, but it's like you're gonna drop like Last Dragon like stuff on you.
You know why, Brad? You know why? People know what the Last Dragon is. They know Bruce Leroy. Nobody knows what the Furious is. I'm sorry that I didn't create that situation.
Yeah, well, let's go. Well, let's bookmark this for 6 months.
The Furious. You ever heard of it? Yeah. What is it?
Not the Fast and the Furious. To be clear,
not the Fast and the Furious.
The Furious.
The Furious.
The Furious?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've heard of Last Dragon, though, haven't you?
Williams co-host says Google The Furious with Kenji Tanaka.
If you have to Google something, you don't know what it is.
Been released
if you
yet.
have to Google it, you don't know what it is. That's literally the reason why you would be Googling it.
We can come back 6 months from now, and this thing is like taking over the world. It's like I'll be accepting your apologies.
All right, yeah, sure, buddy.
But
they know who Bruce Leroy is. You put up a picture of showing up. Somebody's literally going to scream at the top of their lungs, showing up.
You know why they know who Bruce Leroy is? Because they know who Bruce Lee is.
Yeah, are you serious, dude?
Yeah.
You definitely were not a child of the 80s for sure.
Yeah. I have seen The Last Dragon, by the way.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you saw it. You saw it with the Kung Fu movie. You've seen it all. Yeah. Oh my goodness! Hold on.
We will be again 6 months from now. It's like I'll be taking a real victory lap on this.
Yeah, around the straight to streaming.
Yeah. Hey, it fits. I mean, it's not going to be Netflix. It's going to be releasing. It's Lionsgate, but I mean, it fits within like.
Oh, that means they'll be promoting it if it's big. It is going to get wide release.
What? Well, it's supposed to get day and date.
Oh yeah.
But it's. I mean, if that whole plan fits pretty smoothly within like what they're talking about with Netflix and Warner Brothers. So it's like even though it's not going to be Netflix putting it out, it's like this kind of fits their philosophy.
Like I said, you're going to make me put up a poll?
We are watching that trailer the day it drops on this show.
It's not science fiction.
If I have to fly out to Vegas and strap Wayne to the chair to watch it, we are watching that. And hopefully we get that trailer this week. I'm really hoping that at least I would think that they would want to like start out the year with like their plans for it solidified. So hopefully like we hear like the release date in the trailer before like the calendar year close out. Because I mean I think you want to go into the new year with like your plans for something, kind of set in stone.
This way. Bless you. Hold on.
Yeah, Brad spent 2 years in the 80s. I spent a year. Yeah, it's interesting timing too. Like you had 2 years. I haven't went. It's again. Why is it? Why are we're so close? Like it's you have to wonder.
Yeah, I'd stop it. Stop this nonsense. Creepy ass.
Yeah. Okay. I think we got Anthony wants to bring a question up, so I'll bring him one more.
Go ahead.
William, did you apparently see the Universal theme parks in the middle of negotiations? Yeah. We talked about that earlier with DC and also Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think that's something they should have been doing like a long time ago.
Aaron Clint says, I only spent 10 years in the 80s. Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Well, we missed the Cold War. We missed the Cold War.
Oh, that's good.
We
Yeah,
missed.
you were born in what, 89?
87. So,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't have my long-term memory kicked in like right when the Berlin Wall was being brought down.
Wow, fucking kid. All right, you're all set.
Thank you.
All right, man. Let me know if there's anything else you need me to pick up on. I will be making another trip on Wednesday to pick up Absolute Batman 15. I'm going to be picking up a lot of those. So, and all the variants and stuff. So I will be posting those. Let me know which ones you want me to hold. Because I'm going to be interviewing him, by the way. I told you that, right?
Oh, really?
Interviewing Scott Snyder next week. So
yeah.
keep an eye out for that.
If you get me more trade paperbacks.
Okay, just let me know which ones you need, and let me know which Invincible ones you need, because I got access to all those too. All right, see you later. Okay, sorry, William. I'm going back in time and watching Star Trek: Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. I'm skipping Star Trek Fleet Academy. I'm about, and like I said, that I it was his thread that I got into it with somebody, but not like really bad. But it's like, I mean, if it's not for you, the best thing you can do is not watch it. But I'm not gonna. It's there's going to be some people who like the show. Hell, I haven't seen the show. I'm going to give it a shot. If I don't like it, I won't watch it anymore. It's that simple.
Anthony also asked William, "Did you enjoy?" Yeah. He's talked about this before, and yes, it is based off of. I think actually they dropped. It's just called Supergirl now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's still based on that storyline. You can clearly see her uniform, her outfit. And
why did they do that? I mean, it's because they had a similar thing with Superman Legacy, and they just dropped the. So, I'm wondering what's gonna be the first. What's gonna be the first one where they actually like maintain one of those like cola titles?
I don't think I don't think any of their first times around should be anything added. If it's Superman, call it Superman. If it's Supergirl, call it Supergirl. I have no problem with that. That cuts straight to the point. That's your brand neck. Your brand neck recognition with Supergirl is the S on her chest, not the preamble that comes afterwards. Your brand name with Superman, especially this day and era, is going to be either a term like we had back in 2013 or the S himself. You don't need to be Superman. Now, when you do the sequels, different situation. You can go that route, but I have no problem with them doing that. But the title's not going to mean that they're not going to adapt the story. It's one of the better Supergirl storylines out there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not overly excited because of this too much instability coming right now. As we get closer to these things, my excitement level will go up. But right now, with months and months away, I mean, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna take it as it comes. Let's see what else we got here. X-Blades movies. William, do you like to see Absolute be turned into an animated show on HBO or Netflix, or any of the above? Any of the above. HBO is going to. I would say I would go with HBO personally because of the fact that they have a history of quality when it comes to the things that they put on. So I would go with HBO. But if any of those, if I had the opportunity, to do it. All right, do a couple more, and then we're going to roll out of here. William, do you see that apparently the negotiations with Netflix and WB are actually going to impact the food parks too? Apparently, Universal is going to negotiate with WB. Yeah, we talked about that earlier on. Yep. So which one is Star Trek? They're saying Star Trek Academy is, or Starfleet Academy is. I may just give Five Nights at Freddy 2 tonight as an old fan of the first 4 games. Yeah, pretty much. All right, this will be the last one, and then we'll wrap it up. William, have you been able to finish Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate Wolverine? No, I haven't. I'm behind, but I'm only like a couple of like issues behind, and I need to read them because they're about to end it. They're about to do the ultimate ending. So, all right, guys, thank you guys for being here today, both during the Welcome to Derry watch party and our Sunday overnight live. I don't know what the week is going to bring us. The schedule will stabilize after New Year's Eve. Once we hit 2026, it'll be a lot easier because we will be past the retail situation. As you can see, I've had the retail situation coming through the shows and doing that. But once the gift giving situation is calmed down a little bit, we'll get back to a normal schedule. So I will not be on the air tomorrow unless there's big news to drop, or unless I just have an air up my ass and I want to do it. But other than that, it's going to be pretty much late. Plus, I'm fighting off an allergy cold too, so I need my rest. All right, for Brad, who was here, he looks like he lost his connection. I've been your host the entire day. I will see you the next time I see you. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff.